Your company isn't struggling because the competition is struggling because your hiring process is broken. This episode's guest built an entire system to fix it. Our guest is the founder and CEO of VaderRay Companies, a multi-division staffing and talent solutions firm supporting engineering, construction, and operations teams in high-demand industries. With a background in the Army and oil and gas, he brings a practical operator-first approach to building teams and scaling businesses. He helps companies solve critical hiring challenges by delivering experienced talent quickly, enabling growth without sacrificing quality or performance. GLOVISOR welcomes Darren Tompkins. Hey, Darren.
Joe, how you doing, man?
Oh, great. Thanks. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, bud.
Likewise. Looking forward to the conversation. All right. So, Darren, what's the story behind the name VaderRay and what do you do?
Yeah. So VaderRay is, for, 9/10 of the people on the planet, it is a Star Wars reference. We're a very pop culture company, very pop culture family, as we talked before we got on here. I have 5 and 8 year olds. Their names are Josie Vader Tompkins and Izzy Ray Tompkins.
Right.
And, my wife and I had been married before. So it's like when we came to we want to have some rockin' kids names, and, Vader was just something super cool that I thought, Josie could carry with her throughout her life. The Ray, Izzy Ray is obviously from the newer movies. And this is a very true story. It was a toss up. I wanted the name Fett, as in Boba Fett, or Jango Fett. And Steph wasn't sold on it. So what happened is she had a C-section, and while we're in the operating room, she's like, just take a damn vote. And so doctors, nurses, anesthesia, okay, everybody raise their hands. Who wants Fett and who wants Ray? And the Rays got it. So that's how she ended up with her middle name. But, grew up in the 70s and 80s. Star Wars was everything. And I knew it was an instant hook for anybody who saw the name to put 2 and 2 together, at least if they're a fan.
Absolutely. Wow. What a conversation starter that is, huh?
Yeah. It always gets a few laughs for sure.
So now tell us what your business, what does VaderRay Companies do?
Yeah, VaderRay Companies is 3 companies all wrapped up into one. They tend to funnel into each other. VaderRay Recruiting is how we started. It is a executive recruiting as well as trade staffing up and down the ladder. Contingency type search, right? No money down until we get the placement. The second part of the company, or third, I should say, is VaderRay Engineering, which is 1099 project workers. We've done everything from infrastructure projects, which is oil and gas and like utility companies, all the way up to data center development, building, back office work, front of the office, whatever needs to happen. And then we have VaderRay Virtual, which is our offshore virtual professional team that is there to give you as a business owner or executive, get your time back, right? Whether that's with executive assistant type work, or maybe it's your marketing, social media design, website development, whatever gets you a few hours back of your time during the week and to make up for the time you would rather be doing something else, which anybody who owns a business really wishes they could get their time back to go do the things that they prefer to do rather than what they have to do.
What was the moment that, made you realize I have to get into this industry, disrupt it, because the traditional model is not working?
I, like you, have been in business a long time, right? I've been in a W-2. I was in a W-2 for a long time in the oil and gas engineering services. The bottom line is, even to this week, I guarantee you, Joe, when I get off this call, you get hit up by a lot of really crappy recruiters. Just happens, from, Indian companies that are just shooting out whatever they think they can stick. They're required to call 500 people a day just to see who's available, to jobs that I get calls to do project management work on the IT sector, something I haven't done since 2014. And it happens every single week because they're buying and selling old data, hoping that something will stick. And using recruiters over my career, going on really bad job interviews where it's like, why am I even here? It's like being on a bad date. You said you were like this and you're really like this when you get in front of the client, or the pay is way off, or the culture just stinks. It's the old adage of, oh, here's your high-speed work environment. And it's a cubicle with a laptop sitting in it, high-speed type stuff where it just drags you down. And I knew getting into the biz, I started working for a small boutique firm versus going with a big company firm that's going to suck the life out of you. That was a big kind of sink or swim type experience where I got to learn what are the challenges for both the client, which is the hiring company, and the candidates that are looking for jobs. And anybody who's been on the market for any kind of time right now, whether it's a candidate or a client, knows it is absolutely brutal out there. And I feel for these folks because I was them and on both sides of the house. So I knew that I could do it cheaper, faster, more professional, better outcomes by getting rid of a lot of the fluff that came with traditional recruiting companies. Everybody's remote. We don't have an office that you come in, Joe, because it's like, hey, man, you might be a client. Come in. Let me show you our mid-rise office that we own. And hey, here's we're going to do this meeting with 3 recruiters and the director of sales, director of recruiting. My admin's going to be in there. Come check out our cool, espresso machine in the cafe. And for my mindset, anytime I saw that, I'm like, man, no wonder this stuff is so expensive, right? Where I'm like, let's just cut out everything and go at light speed, work lean, highly incentivize our workers. So you're not dying and, month to month cash flow problems with paying overhead, and just see what we can get out there and do. And it's been very successful so far.
I like that. Just removing the fluff and just getting
Yeah. And
right to
that's what everybody wants nowadays. Nobody cares about the car unless you're like a financial advisor or something, right? You don't want a guy who's driving a crappy car to tell you what you do with the money. But, this collared shirt I'm wearing, I have like 5 of them now. I have one suit jacket for every facet of my life. And that really reflects, because as an owner, your vision of what the company should be, um, people rally around that, whether they are clients or candidates or your own employees. And that's the culture that we produce here.
when you're placing these engineers in these billion-dollar projects. What is the real gap between what companies ask for and what they really need?
Yeah, that's a great question. And engineers are an interesting bunch, right? Because people, when somebody say they're an engineer, it's like saying I'm a project manager. It's like, well, what type? There's 100 different types out there. Are you a train engineer? Are you a mechanical engineer, process chemical, any of that stuff, petroleum? You've got to dive down into what they want to do, because in the oil and gas sector, a lot of those intertwine, depending on who the client is, whether they're a consulting firm, a refinery, petrochem, whatever that is. So you really need to understand what it is that they do, and then what do they want to do? Because if they're coming from like a refinery type job where they're wearing hard hats and Nomex and stuff, maybe they're ready to make the shift to where to like, man, I want to spend more time with my kids, maybe find an office job type stuff. You really need to understand what they want to get out of it, and how does that match up with the client. Now, our client research is equally as detailed as the candidate search, whereas GLOVISOR needs a person to do whatever, right? Well, but the first question I always ask is, Joe, why the hell would anybody want to work for you in the first place? And if they start just showing, well, we have this amount of money and this kind of basic stuff, that doesn't really fly anymore. It's the office environment's great, but why do people want to work for you? And more importantly, why do they stay? Because if you're having high turnover, like we're trying to fill this role for you that you've fired or people have quit 5 times over the past year, there's a significant cultural problem. And it's not with the candidates usually. It's the in-place team that's been there that's dealing with this high turnover. So we get down into the nitty-gritty of not just Joe, but hey, how about Joe's boss? Maybe there's a problem there and below, and looking at everything that's happening. Because candidates, workers leave for primarily 2 reasons. 90% of the time, they leave for better pay or better culture. And if they're leaving, get to the bottom of it, of what's happening, because otherwise you're going to be in the same repeating system over and over again. Now, the 2% why people quit, there's things you can't factor in: family problems, drug addictions, whatever. That's outside of anybody's hands. But what sets us apart is the detail that goes into both the candidate side and the client side, and the AI that we use to back both of that up.
You emphasize a lot of precision. So, how do you vet the talent so differently than the traditional recruiter?
I'm going to spill the beans because I believe in just pure transparency. We, traditionally will post a job, or you will, or whoever, right? And then people apply to it, whether it's be off of your company website, LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster, whatever. And then, you've got like the 3 seconds to get the recruiter's attention, right? there's a real problem nowadays, a challenge. It's both a challenge and a problem where there are so many people looking for work that are transitioning out of other jobs and clients that are canceling jobs due to so much uncertainty of what's going on out there, whether they over budget or whatever is going on. Um, where we have to speed everything up because the more time you give people to think about stuff, the more they're going to be like, maybe not. We use AI, an AI agent that we've been programming for the last 2 years, and it's there to help us vet candidates extremely fast. So if we get 50 over a weekend, we get 50 people applying to whatever job. We have scheduler positions that are open right now. And we get a job description from you, obviously, as the hiring company. And we create a numerical system of, pluses and minuses based off the job description. When people apply, we upload their resumes. We don't even look at them on right initially because the mistake a lot of people do is they get too vested in the person and not the candidate, right? The person is who you're going to get along with, working with, whether that's the mutual interests or their culture, right? People will try to hire for culture first, and then things don't work out because if they can't do the bulleted job description requirements, why are you going to get to know them deeper anyway? Because otherwise it's like hiring a friend, right? You're just going to get frustrated eventually and it's going to ruin your relationship. So what happens is the AI spits us out a number between 1 and 10 with decimal points of how well you match on the job description. The sweet spot's 8.8 to 9.4. We rarely see anything above, and anything below the 8.8, there's something major missing, right? It's much like I equated to Dave Portnoy, if you know who that is. He does pizza reviews. They're rated just like his. Like it's rare to find anything above that. And we didn't plan on that, but that's just what the AI thinks. So now we have a batch of people we will schedule to interview, right? This all happens within seconds. Like we're running. And as soon as that AI batch comes back, my recruiters are dialing. And what ends up happening is we have our standard interview, first screening call, right? For us, it can be up to an hour. We have very specific job description questions that go deeper than what a regular screening call will do. And then once we get that, we run it against the AI again. And very rarely will anybody actually go down and score. And most people will go up. And then that really starts to kind of get the cream of the crop. Because again, once you get closer and closer to that 9.4, 9.5, that's really top of the walk. So that cuts everything down so quickly because before this could take a week and a half just to go through everything and schedule and out. Nowadays, everybody's moving so quickly. We can have this first part done in a day and a half. Now, the challenge for you that we throw at you, the hiring manager, is, well, here's your people. What are you going to do with them? And a lot of hiring managers based on their day-to-day work could drag this out. And that is a big no-no because if you drag the interview process out, these candidates they're going to think that you're not interested or this is a BS job posting or whatever. So that's how it works. And then we go into the traditional stuff of interviewing, scheduling on-site interviews, negotiation, offer letter, and bam, we get to the finish line. Now, there's a million things that can go wrong between now and then dealing with people, as you know.
I see the perspective that you work with the companies that are recruiting, but I want to throw in a question that goes towards for someone who is trying to be recruited, right? Who just submitted a resume. Is there anything that they can do that can improve their chances a little bit more? Is it structure of their resume? Is it more information? Is it less information? What would you suggest?
So I'm going to use LinkedIn as an example. When you apply to LinkedIn to a job posting, we get an email saying, Joe applied, right? And it tells us a little bit that's in your headline about yourself, right? I preach this all the time. If we can't tell who you are, where you are, and what you do, there's probably no point in investigating this anymore. You've got to be blunt. We have job titles. Yeah, you need to go for those job titles, but you also have to tailor your resume to what that job is. So if it doesn't really match up, that kind of tells us you're not taking a vested interest. In other words, if you're just applying to a job and here's my generic resume, recruiters will pass very fast on that because we want to see that you are vested in knowing what the job is that you're doing. We talk to people all the time, Joe. Hey, you applied to our role that we posted on LinkedIn. Can't wait to talk to you. Okay, well, what role was that? It's like, well, it's this scheduler position. Scheduling. It's like, well, you sent us your resume that says you're a scheduler, and or they're in the wrong location. They need sponsorship. There's lots of different things that happen along there. It's a lot of back and forth, a lot of psychology involved. And if you get frustrated easy, this is not the job for you. Even if you're a hiring manager at a company, it can get frustrating pretty quickly.
So, what hiring mistake do companies keep repeating that could easily be avoided with the right strategy?
Yeah, we always say hire slow and fire fast. And do your vetting. If you're using a recruiter, make sure that they know what they're doing. I'm fortunate that almost all of our clients are referrals. So they're people that I've worked with in the past. So they know how good we are. And I don't have to do a lot of cold sales kind of stuff. So hire slow and fire fast. And I've been guilty of violating that myself with people that have worked for me in the past, because we can go back to like the conversation we had earlier about culture, getting to know somebody, you get a vested interest in their lives. And then you're just like, man, she really is bad at this job, but I like her so much. I really feel bad if I fired her. You've got to get that out of your mindset. Otherwise, they're going to suck the money out of you, and it's just going to be more frustrating later on. So, on the other side of that, know what you need, know who's going to work best with you, right? The cultural questions that go into a job interview, even before you get to the job interview, are so important nowadays. And I'll give you another real world example. We have a client that we just finished up with. They needed a controller. This is for a warehouse distribution company here in Houston. And the owner, it's a private company owned, one guy, he brings his giant dogs to work. One's a Cane Corso and the other's a Doberman.
Yeah.
Great dogs, very nice dogs, but they were intimidating as crap when you walk up to that front door and they're sitting there looking at you. A lot of people don't like dogs. People are allergic to dogs. Whatever the issue is, we have to ask that in the very beginning. Do you like dogs? Can you work around dogs? They're like, but this isn't like a veterinary job. I'm like, yeah, but this is what happens, because we can't ask the company owner to change his ways. It's his company. So we have to tailor it to where their client is. Fortunately, that's not really an issue so far, but something that 5 years ago, nobody would ever have to think to ask somebody, but nowadays you have to, because it's got to be a perfect match.
So, I can see where this is a major value that you're providing to business owners, because you can actually get a little bit more granular to their desires and the things that they want. Um, so I would imagine that in speed is a major part of your value. So what is the fastest that you've ever filled a critical role? And how did you make it happen?
So we've done it in a day and a half, which is very rare. This is actually a contracts attorney position for an oil and gas company. They hit us up, man, we need somebody. And it was just like, well, I know a guy, it's sometimes it just comes down to that. I had a buddy of mine who was at another engineering services company. He was a contracts attorney, um, got laid off. And it's like, literally, hey, Bill, called the president up, and he wasn't the guy who was the approval authority, but I'm like, Bill, I know a dude, if you want to meet him today. He's like, send him on down. And he lived like 15 miles from the refinery, drove down there, had like a coffee afternoon, turned into dinner that night, which turned into a job offer the next morning. And that was a big deal. We get paid on a percentage of the compensation. To get done that fast was like, holy crap, this is like amazing, because some of these jobs, they sound like they should be a slam dunk, and we'll get it done in a few days. No problem. They drag on for months because either the candidate pool is terrible. The hiring manager or the company just turns out that they're dragging their feet. And then some of them are like, well, this is going to be impossible. And then bam, they're done, very quickly. So there's a lot of probability involved in this type of work when you're dealing with people. We call them
Sure.
human capital every now and again, which is really what it is. But it's very volatile, the most volatile commodity out there.
Now, for a company that's scaling really quickly, what is the first sign their talent strategy is about to become their liability?
So, a good example of that is a company that's just killing it in sales. We're killing it in sales. Look at how much income we have for whatever widget that we're selling or service that we're providing. They get to the go, like, and you have a dynamic sales team, money's flowing in. Then it's like, oh crap, well, we need like a server guy now and we need a legal assistant. Like the support services get left in the dust. And that I've seen that happen so many times, they need AP specialists to deal with all the new invoices that are coming in and nobody can get it right.
Mhm.
It's planning and communication are going to mitigate a lot of that stuff. Unless all of a sudden you got $1 billion order in and it's like, okay, well, we're a 3-person team. What are we going to do with this? People will generally plan better, but understand who your frontliners are and the support services that are needed to support those people. High performance sales guys, man, they will run and gun all day long and they will leave you with a stack of invoices a mile high. Just because hey man, look at all the money I'm making you right now. It's like, well, damn, we really need to find him an assistant or something or their own accounting person. It's going to mess up your own internal system a bit, but just try to mitigate it as best you can, especially if you're the owner of the company. Get involved, talk to everybody.
Now, if you could eliminate one practice or belief from the recruiting industry, what would it be?
One belief that you have to get out of your head, if you're somebody who is looking for a job, is looking at a LinkedIn post where 100 people have applied to the job you're looking at and thinking that there's no point in it. There's so many factors that go into a job that you're looking at, because that 100 people, half of them aren't going to be remotely qualified for the job. These are people that are just looking to get their foot in the door, or their pay expectations are out of whack, right? Their company ATS or whoever's looking at it is going to eliminate a huge portion of it, right? So now you're in the 50% margin. Another 25% of those are going to be nixed because they need sponsorship or they don't live in the right location, or they're looking for a hybrid job or a remote job where it's in office type stuff, right? Again, and then they weed out some more of the pay type issues. So now you're down in the top 20, 25%, which is a good place to be. Just don't pass up something just because you think a lot of people applied to it. There's always this good chance that most of them aren't involved. Every barista I've ever met thinks that they need a director level position, and they'll apply to that stuff. And just to get out of whatever situation they're in. So don't lose hope in that. It is, and I have been there. I've been a job seeker so many times, because here in Texas, in the oil and gas space, everything rides on what is the cost of a barrel of crude today. When it's high, everybody hires, everybody invests in new technologies. And when it's low, everybody gets laid off. And I've been a member of that several times. And then going back on the job market sucks, but you just have to grind it out. It's like any other job. It is a full-time job looking for a job. There's just no pay or benefits involved with it. So stick with it. Mm-hmm.
Great advice. All right. So where is the engineering and the technical staffing market headed over the next 3 years?
Yeah. So we're in the beginning throes of AI takeover. That people are probably going to hate my ass over this, but we're also in a position where companies are cutting people loose. We're talking about major oil and gas operators. My brother-in-law just got let go from one of the majors. Been there 24 years as a trader. They were wishy-washy about reasons that they let, 15% of the market go. It's because they have old school pensions that they don't want to pay anymore. Anybody that has an old school retirement package, which is so rare to see nowadays, they're letting go. The other reason that the more nefarious reason is that they're using AI to take over a lot of the number crunching that's being done. And there's a million articles out there to get prepared to do a job shift. If you think that your job, your career, whatever you've been doing, doesn't matter if it's a year or 100 years, if you think it's possible AI could replace what you're doing, start looking at other options, right? Recruiting, I don't think it'll ever be fully automated, because you and I have to talk. If you're the hiring manager on the candidate, well, you got to get to know me at some point, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why I tell people, don't lie on your resume. Don't lie on your LinkedIn. If you're 80 years old and on the job market, don't try to hide your age. If you have an issue with the language, you got to let them know up front, because otherwise, if you and I show up, or if I show up to interview with you and, I'm a retiree, you're going to think, man, this guy's probably bullshitting me about some other stuff on his resume, or if, whatever doesn't match up. The AI takeover, as everybody says, it's going to happen. I mean, you see it in Meta, you see it at Microsoft, Amazon, and all that. Be ready to pivot. If you even think that there's a a case where your job could be eliminated.
Sure. Now, from your perspective, you get to see a lot of different roles. Is there one role that you're thinking, you know what, this is not going to get replaced anytime soon? And if I were doing this over again, or I were an 18-year-old, this is what I would train in today.
That's a great question. Again, we go back to our kids' ages. You're at the finish line with yours, mine are at the beginning. We have this discussion, my wife and I, the family. They have 529s that are in place for college. They're going to be great. But again, what is the college curriculum going to look like? What does college look like in 10 years? You know, there was a time when, I got my bachelor's degree where it was like everybody needs to get an MBA if you want to get ahead in life, and it just kind of comes and goes. By the time I got done, I was so frustrated. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, it took a few more classes. MBAs weren't worth the paper they were written on as far as employees were concerned. Nowadays, they're coming back a little bit more. But with our daughters, it's like, if you can't figure out what to do, there's no problem with trades. They always need people to actually put stuff together. That is something that we never have a problem finding help with. Yeah. Okay. Data center help. What they really need help is people to build it. That is never going to stop construction because there's only so much land and so much material. That is something people should probably think about especially if you're in a job where AI is going to wipe it out. Construction is always going to be there. Anything dealing with a computer, man, other than actually physically building, you could be in a problem. We used to hire front end developers like gangbusters, man. Now AI is taking over all that work. You kind of have to figure it out for yourself in whatever business you're getting into. Again, we're speculating. I'm thinking 10 years ahead. Who knows what's going to happen at that point? A lot of it is political, like how much land can we give up and electricity and water. But start thinking about it now, especially if you have kids, young kids. Think about what they're going to look like here soon.
That's true. Now, what would be the one message that you would give a founder or an operations leader who knows their team is not prepared for what's coming?
Yeah, get your communication up. If you know that there's issues, you need to tell them now. Nobody likes being told after hours from HR, by the way, your position's been cut. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 people or if you have 3 people. Keep the communication up. Don't BS anybody. A lot of our team is in the Philippines, just because that's how I formed the company to cut the costs. We meet twice a week to go over things that are going on over there right now. They're in a real fuel crunch, electricity crunch, because they're just getting hit. Asia's getting hit harder than anybody over this Iran thing. Have some empathy for people. If you do need to cut, do it in a way that's going to maintain the relationship, because it is everything nowadays. I have previous candidates that I worked with 5 years ago that are now managers that are coming to me to help them out. Right. So, understand that everybody's fighting a battle. Understand you will be fighting one at some point in time, and just keep the communication going, man. I mean, that is something that gets lost in business so quickly. You turn around, the week is up. What happened? I don't know. They'll send me an email summary or something. And then a week later, 2 weeks into it, everything's a disaster, and it's just because you're not keeping your finger on what's going on.
Absolutely. Great advice. Now, Darren, who should be contacting you right now?
Yeah. Anybody that's having full-time transition problems where, like we talked about earlier, we're having a rotating door in and out of people and people leaving, candidates that aren't applying. Absolutely ready to help you. If you have project work that needs happening, it doesn't matter if they're in Alaska or South America, we can get them for you. Depending on what you need done. And then, founders and owners that just need some time back, whether it's 4 hours a week or 20 hours a week, we have the outreach and the know-how to get you something to do the work that you maybe necessarily don't even want to do anymore, but somebody else will be willing to take for a very small pay to do it for you.
Yeah. And where can they contact you to continue this conversation?
Yeah, you can please reach me at Darren, DARREN, at VaderRay.com, VADERREY.com. You can find me anywhere. I'm very easy to find on social media. I've got a big, wide range background. You don't even need social. Just Google me. There's a million pages out there. But yeah, all the email contacts are there. The phone numbers on every website. The phone numbers that are on every single website that I have, every other company, is directly to my cell phone. Because I'm always believe that I need to be the point man for anything, any issue, any new client, anybody that needs help. So that's just been ingrained in me because my mom was a social worker. And that's just something I've kept with me my entire life.
Well, Darren, thanks for the powerful conversation and for breaking down the work that you're doing at VaderRay Companies. It's been a pleasure having you.
Joe, this has been great, man. You're running a great program here.
Thank you very much. Till the next time.